Hello, my friends. My name is Samuel Savy, and this week on the show, Montreal grinds out three crucial points away against dead last DC United. Georgi Mihailovic hints at a possible near future departure, and the women national team put in a valiant effort, but the Americans were too strong in the CONCACAF Championship final. All of that and a lot more in episode 92 of The Ball is Round. And in roughly 1 hour, we'll be joined by Anthony Tetera. He's a grassroots ambassador and a domestic amateur scout in League One Canada, which for us Quebecers is the equivalent of the PLSQ here in Quebec. He's had a very long career in scouting. It's going to be really interesting, so I can't wait. But before that, we have everything CF Montreal, of course, and I'm joined by my friends Yves Paul and Hady Raphael. How's everyone today?
Hot.
Yeah, it is.
yeah. She's a warm one today. Little muggy.
Hady, you good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Happy to see Montreal win yesterday, and moving on now in the last few games of the season. Hopefully, this time around we will not fail. Let's hope.
Yeah, everyone is dreading that. Yeah, I know everyone is kind of dreading that slide that happened last year, but so far we've not really seen it yet.
Guys,
but
you know my fear of a jinx. You know my fear.
Yeah, no, let's not jinx it though. Yesterday, DC could have came as a trap game, a bit like the SKC was, but we grinded it out. So let's jump right into the review of the DC United game. DC came into this game dead last in the league. They only won once since the 7th of May. Since then, their record is 1 win, 3 draws, and 6 losses, including a 7-0 thumping away to Philadelphia. It would be interesting to see, though, if the arrival of Wayne Rooney, even if he wasn't available yesterday, was going to be a bit of a boost for them, if there was going to be some effect whatsoever. On Montreal's behalf, some questions had been answered last week against Toronto. James Pantemis' first start of the season seemed to secure a lot of fans, while the return of Georgi Mihailovic would provide some needed stability in midfield. Montreal came into this game fourth in the East, which is the last available home field advantage position come the time for the playoffs. That being said, a whole week off since the Toronto game, we were curious to see if Wilfred Nancy would proceed to rotating his squad again, especially giving the suspension to Kamal Miller. So the lineup was Pantemis in goal, from right to left in center back, Corbo, Camacho, and Waterman. Wingbacks on the right, Johnston; on the left, Lapalainen. In midfield, Victor Wanyama, Ismail Kone, and Georgi Mihailovic. Up front, Romel Kyoto and Mason Toy. Samuel Piet didn't make the trip out with an illness, while Zoran Basong and Sunusi Ibrahim made the bench for the first time in a while. Hady, were you surprised that Wilfred Nancy decided to go with Corbo at right center back and stick to Alistair Johnston at wing back?
Oh yeah, Alistair. I wasn't surprised. No, for me it was really exactly what we needed, because Alistair Johnston has proven to be the best right wing back of Montreal with this tactical formation, and I don't want to move him from there because his crosses are really, really important. He understands exactly what Wilfried Nancy wants from him as a right wing back, so no, not surprised. I'm just a bit worried to see Joel Waterman, being moved around from right to left, from right to left. It's very hard to really find your position, to find your
rhythm.
And not only it's a completely different game from on the right than on the left, so a bit worried about that. But you know what, he played very well, Joel Waterman.
I was gonna say, actually, for me it's a compliment to Joel Waterman. The fact that he's definitely the de facto starter at right center back, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and now he's also carved out a spot doing a more than serviceable job on the left-hand side of that three-man back if needed when Kamal Miller is absent. So for me, it's kind of just another feather in the cap of Joel Waterman as we've kind of witnessed his really incredible development over the last, say, season and a half.
Oh, most definitely. And there was one thing that was very interesting to see is how much the return of Mihailovic would gel the midfield. Did you have that feeling that his inclusion in the starting 11 was very important, also due to the fact that Sampiet was absentee?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially knowing that it is a road game and we've seen Montreal get sucked in against some of these teams, regardless of the quality the team has based on their position in the standings. They seem to have gotten stuck into these battles that on paper they should be winning pretty easily. So I think you do need as many of your more experienced, calmer players out there for quote unquote trap games like these.
Yeah, and Georgie, I think we didn't feel a big difference with like within the way the team played. I think Georgie, of course, brings his quality, of course, to the squad, and on the pitch, that's for sure. But the way the team played, they didn't play differently without Georgie than with Georgie. In that game, we were a bit afraid when he was injured.
Yeah.
We're a bit afraid of how it will look like and the animation and how Matko will fill in. And we've seen that. I think that the team evolved without Georgi Mihailovic, and now Georgi Mihailovic came back in a team that already evolved, and it seems that, I don't know, I felt like it was a better team now with Georgi Mihailovic, not only because he's the better guy, but also because the team has improved without him too.
Yeah, and that's a testament too to the quality of the team, I think, because for years we've been talking about that Nacho dependance that we felt a lot in Montreal, and we didn't want to go into another trap because yes, it's a mental trap of depending a lot on a player, but it becomes a bit of a tactical trap too for the coaching staff, and you don't want to go there. So I'm happy that the team, it wasn't perfect without Georgie, but they stick to their principles and kind of came out unscathed in a sense while Georgie wasn't there. So guys, jumping into the game, Montreal got off to a dream start. In the 30th second, Donovan Pines made a complete mess of the ball, and Kyoto was given a free run at goal. At a moment, we might have thought the chance was over as he drifted wide left, but he slotted his shot in from a tight angle, and we were ahead. And Yves, I know you have a thing with Kyoto and his angles. Did you ever think that this opportunity was gone, or you knew he was going to score?
Of course you did.
No, I actually, no. For me, I mean, we've seen, I think, him score even closer than that to the touchline. So, nope, still, I was actually still pretty pleased. Once I saw him get past the keeper, even though the defenders were hustling their way back, I knew certainly that man loves an angle. I don't know what else to say. Romel Kyoto and tight angles. I was not worried until he and the ball crossed the touchline. I'm not worried for him.
But talking about angles, Eve, it's interesting what you say, because if I want people who are gonna look at the highlights once more, just see how Romel brings an angle to his pressure on Donovan Pines. So sometimes players have the tendency to kind of bull rush a player, go head on, and it's really easy to get away from these types of pressure. You just move the ball to one side and get a play on. But what Romel did is he put a bit of a curve in his run and really put Pines under a difficult place, because he was looking where all the Montreal player was coming at. So he kind of panicked for a second, seeing how Romel came in. And Romel took the ball and put it in the back of the net. So talking about angles, his pressure angle was good too. Hady, what about those starts by Montreal? I know it was a fluke goal, but we really have a penchant to starting the games well. What would explain that?
I don't think everybody's going to like my answer, but I would say the coach. I think team talk is very, very important at the beginning, and the effects of a team talk are usually, you see the effects of a team talk usually at the beginning of the half. So beginning of the game or beginning of the second half, that's when you see the effects of a team talk. And in my opinion, most of the players, if not all the players, are completely behind Wilfried Nancy vision, and it shows. It shows that those players seem happy and are completely invested in his way of playing, in his style of playing, and in his tactical approach to the game. And for me, that's maybe I wouldn't say 100%, because of Wilfried Nancy, but a big, big, big part of it is because Wilfried Nancy. I know I'm someone that really is a big fan of that coach. I do understand it, but I don't see another explanation to that.
Yeah, and in the 10th minute, we were still high flying, and off a
Yeah.
free kick, Georgie opted to pass the ball to Ismail Kone. Has to say, Kone seemed a bit surprised to receive the ball, and he kind of untangled his feet, shot wide of the mark. Kone had been relegated to the bench for a few weeks now. What did you think of his performance yesterday?
Listen, it's very weird because Wilfried Nancy a few weeks ago changed his animation. And as you could see, before he was playing more with a pure number six, who's Wanyama, and a more number eight, a box to box midfielder that was a bit more offensive, a bit more on the offensive side of things. And then he started playing with Piet and Wanyama because he wanted to give to have the animation go through the wings a lot more than in the middle of the pitch. And Kone came in with that new animation, and as you can see, Kone wasn't supposed to go forward as much as he was supposed to before.
Mm.
So he's kind of trying to adjust himself to a new role, even if it's the same position, it's a different role. So yeah, he wasn't very effective in that role, but I think he's just learning that new role. Don't forget that it's a guy that used to be a winger. So, playing very defensively is not his cup of tea usually. But, considering everything, he did okay. He wasn't appalling. He wasn't great either. But good game, I think, from the youngster for first game in that position.
And Eva, I've seen online there was very, very despairing comments on Kone. Sometimes it was full praise for his performance. I've seen people say he was the worst player on the pitch. So one thing for sure that kind of sticks out is that he's not giving the same play that he gave at the start of the season.
Yeah.
What is needed, in your opinion, for him to find his swagger again? That swagger he had at the start of the year when we got to know him.
I think for sure his confidence may have taken a little bit of a dip since, the really intense uprising, I think, in his notoriety in Montreal soccer and in Canadian soccer. And that's a lot for a young player to take on. And maybe when the success isn't coming as obviously week in and week out, that can be difficult to deal with mentally. So for me, it's important that he has the right people around him to talk him through this phase of his season. This being his first pro season, starting it so strong, he needs to kind of keep his head on his shoulders, not worry, not get caught up in his own head, and move on to the next game as if the last one hadn't happened, whether it was a fantastic game or a terrible game.
Yeah, they always say you have to have a very short memory in these types of jobs, and especially for a youngster trying to get his mark in the league. Guys, in the 25th minute, Montreal's defense was stretched, and Miguel Berry made his way to goal, but Camacho got in the way at the very last second and saved what would have been the equalizer for DC. Yves, we talk a lot about the defense in a whole, like more of a system point of view, but individually, how did you feel that Camacho performed last night?
I liked Rudy Camacho last night, honestly. Obviously, he had Joel Waterman on the left side of him, who was outside of his slightly normal position. And then you had Gabriele Corbo on the right-hand side, who hasn't had a ton of playing time. Plus, he picked up a really early yellow card. Yeah. So sure. Corbo also maybe couldn't go as full-blooded as he would have liked for a lot of the game. So for me, I thought Rudy Camacho with two relatively... Joel Waterman, he's not young, but... Rudy Camacho, as the veteran, certainly, of that back line, I thought he did a great job. I thought he was a real general back there. He definitely got his fellow defenders out of hot water on a few occasions. And I think he was really calm. He gave it his all. I think we saw towards the end of the match he was suffering a bit physically, and that he really earned those 3 points for his team.
And Hady, do you have the feeling that his performances this year justify the new contract he got at the start of the season?
Yeah. You know, I'm curious to know how much he's paid.
Yeah,
because,
we all want to know.
you know, no, because for me to justify his new contract, I need to know his salary because we're in a salary-based league. So, salary cap-based league.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends if he's paid $850,000 again.
No, he's not.
Yeah. So I don't think so. So we don't know. We don't know.
Well,
I know we checked.
I mean, we have the numbers from the MLSPA.
Yeah, but we know that these are not the real numbers,
Yeah.
right? So
well, it's with a grain of salt, but I mean, it's still a significantly smaller number than was printed there during his previous years with Montreal.
True. But signing a new contract, I think it's important. The stability of a defense is very important. So yes, it's justified. He was a bit shaky at the beginning of the season, but now I think he readjusted himself. So, he's back being the general of the defense, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and after that, James Patemis, he made a very solid save off a Taxi Funtas shot in the 27th minute.
Oh my god, I lived in fear of Taxi Funtas the whole game. I was like, Taxi, no.
No, he's good. And a few minutes later, Joel Waterman, he just sent a routine ball at the field and caught DC's defense completely asleep. And Romel Kyoto was free to run unchallenged for more than 40 meters, and he chipped Rafael Romo to make it 2-0. Hady, this was Kyoto's career-high 9th goal of the season.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have the feeling that we forget Romel Kyoto when we talk about important players on this team. We often refer, to Georgie, to Victor, but how important, in your opinion, has Romel become?
Oh, man. I think I said it at one point here. The fact maybe he's not scoring, he's not the striker that's going to score you to 20, 25 goals, but the space that he opens up to the other players is amazing.
Well,
his
it's his
physical
body
presence.
work, yes.
Exactly. His physical presence, the way that he's able to play with his back, his
Hold
back
the
to
ball
the
up.
goal
Yeah.
is amazing. That's not something that a lot of players can do. He's so important, and then he's still able to dribble. He's still able to cross. He's still able to score headers. So he's a complete player. And don't forget, guys, that he mastered a position that's not his, right?
Yeah.
He's not a striker. Ronaldo Kyoto is a left winger, right?
He's doing an all right job masquerading.
Yeah, he's doing good, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we tend to forget that this is a guy that's playing another role that Thierry Henry asked him to play, and he's been the most important and the most consistent player up front for CF Montreal for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And Yves, his contract is up at the end of the year. Do you think that he is Olivier Renard's number one priority going into the off-season?
Number one, that's kind of hard to say because there's a lot of important players with their contracts up this year. But for me, if Romel Kyoto wants to stay, he gets to stay. And if I'm Olivier Renard, I'm probably having those conversations. If they're not already going on, I'm having them pretty darn soon.
Yeah, and that kind of segues us into Simple Guy's question. He hit us up this week. We're going to put it on the screen in a matter of seconds. There you go. So it's in French. I'll try and translate in English. These 4 free agents, quote unquote, Camara, Pantemis, Piet, Kyoto, do they resign with Montreal next year? And do we want them? Then he asks us, also, if you keep any of these guys above, what is the max dollars you're willing to pay on a yearly basis for their services? So I think we can take them one by one, guys. Let's start with Romel Kyoto, because we were talking about him. Yes or no for Kyoto?
Yes.
Hady?
Yeah, 100%.
He's a sure bet.
Oh yeah. What is the max dollars you're ready to give Romel Kyoto?
Well, like his guaranteed compensation this year, according to MLSPA, which is as good as we're gonna get, is $885. Honestly, I think he's a really good player. He's good for MLS and the CONCACAF style that we often get in MLS. I'd go up to $1 million.
Hady?
Two millions or
To
two a
$8 million.
Okay, I was like, okay, what the hell? Yeah, not same for me. I was
And
gonna
like
say $1 million.
plus bonuses or whatever.
Yeah, and don't forget that Bjorn Johnson like shouldn't be here.
Well,
by the
he'll
end of the year,
he'll
right?
be
So-
gone. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a salary that you're gonna get rid of.
Yeah.
So yeah, $1 million for me is good. Don't forget that Romel is gonna be 31 in a couple of weeks. So I think a contract for 2 or 3 years for $1 million is pretty good for him. Seeing his age and his importance for CF Montreal.
Exactly the same for me. I was gonna say $1 million, and I was gonna say for 2 years now.
2 or 3 years.
Let's say 2 plus 1, and we'll make it
2
that
plus
way.
1. I like that.
Next on the simple guy was Piet. Sam Piet, yes or no?
Oh man, it's interesting now that he's not a de facto starter, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he is extremely important to the locker room of that club, and I think especially if Victor Wanyama does leave at the end of this season, then you need a defensive midfielder who has that ball-winning capacity in him. Even though I know Sam Piet and Victor Wanyama are two completely different players, undoubtedly, I think he does still offer enough to the team on and off the pitch that he should absolutely stay.
Hady.
Oh yeah, for sure. Same. I think he's very important, as Yves said, to the team in the locker room, but also to the club as an image, as a marketing image, as a Canadian, as a Quebecer. That's something that's very valuable because he is, and in his position, in his particular role, he's very, very good. As a pure number 6, he's very, very good. And people tend to forget that because that's not the kind of players that we want right now, maybe more all the time as a complete starter. But there's a lot of tactical formation that require that kind of player.
Good point.
So I like that. I like to have that flexibility and that as a coach, whenever I'm a coach, if I'm a coach, one day, you never know, then, I would like to have a player like that. Now the problem is the salary. That's the biggest problem I think that we have.
Well, for me, Piet is yes, for sure. But there's 2 things for Piet. He's a better player than when he arrived in Montreal, but he has a lesser role. He used to play every single minute of every single game under Miguel and under Mauro Biello and under Wilmer Cabrera, and started losing a bit of his 100% starter tag under Thierry Henry, but it kind of consolidated under Wilfried Nancy. But I think given that situation, I think you could maybe look for a similar contract that he has right now.
Just a quick note, because we did have Patrick who left us with this comment. I believe it was regarding Kyoto. I don't want to cut you guys off, but I just want to make sure we don't disregard it. He mentioned about a club option for Kyoto. I did just double check, and there is an option for 2023.
Is it a club option or
It's a
player
club option, yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. So yeah, we're gonna have Kyoto for the same amount then. Pretty sure about that. So that's pretty good.
But
Oh,
if
we
he
were going
wants
to
to
give him a raise. I feel bad.
but what's dangerous, you saw it with Boyan. These options is always a bit dangerous. If the player wants to negotiate this year and you just leave the club option, maybe you're handicapping yourself for a few years after because you got him a bit mad, not negotiating what he wanted. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kyoto, we don't go on the option route for him and we resign him.
Well,
straight
yeah,
up.
but it does make it a little less urgent knowing that option
obviously.
is there.
Yeah, we don't have to take a decision right now, because we're losing if we don't take a decision, right? So
exactly.
But how much I agree with you, Sam. For Sam Piet, I would say around the same kind of of contract, maybe a small raise of 50,000,
more,
like 450.
Well, inflation's
500.
hardcore. You gotta throw people a raise.
True. Yves, what would you do?
Yeah, I would keep Saint-Piet for what he bring, like I already said. As far as money, I am terrible with money. Nobody wants me to decide how to allocate funds ever, please. I would probably go along lines with what Hady's saying. You know, obviously, if he's not going to be a starting player all the time, we do have to be careful, though, because, of course, going to the World Cup, his market value is going to increase significantly, and he may be looking to be rewarded as such. So 450, 475 might be something to that effect.
Yeah. Even 500, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I think 500.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, we don't know what the 2023 salary cap and all that jazz is.
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Pantemis, guys?
You're gonna have to give me
okay.
a couple of months before I can answer that.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad. I feel like if Wilfred Nancy is staying on as coach, then James Pantemis shouldn't stay with the club.
Okay,
that's my honest feeling. It just seems to. I mean, we saw what it took for him to get in at this season, after he got kind of unceremoniously yanked last season. And I feel like his development has suffered, not just this season. And I think he's done a great job the past 2 matches, just to be clear. But I think his development was hindered by the poor management of that academy to pro team. That lack of proper transition that didn't exist until the CPL loans really came into effect. So unfortunately, I think his development did get handicapped by that, and it's through no fault of his own. Just the only fault is that they chose the Montreal Impact Academy way back in the day. And honestly, I don't know. I don't 100% trust. I guess like the relationship is super healthy.
Yeah,
that's interesting. A lot of people are saying that, but I don't know. I don't think they're best friends, but I don't know. You know what? I think that James Pantemis has had all the chances he could to prove that he deserves another contract, and I think this is his last chance. If he proves himself as a solid number one until the end of the year, he doesn't lose his place, he doesn't make any big mistakes or anything, I think it's fair that he gets another contract. Now, you know me, guys. Play the youth. For me, Sirois would be number one next year. But nobody
No.
really
I think Sirois gets a legitimate chance in preseason at number one, to be clear.
Oh, yeah, but
you don't just
for me, he's number one. For if you want to put someone that's a bit shaky and not a real number one, might as well put a young keeper and let him make mistakes. But
that's what we never accepted to do here, eh?
Exactly. So I would give a contract to James Pantemis only if he is really, really good this season. That's the only reason why I would give him a contract. Or else, I'm sorry, man.
Okay, I would give him because I think it's gonna be a competition between him and Sirois next year. And Breza is gone for me. So now money, Pantemis. Not much of a thing, because he's in the lower tier of salaries. I don't think he'll get a huge raise if he does get one, so it won't affect the team that much. And the interesting one and the last one of Simple Guy's question is Kai Kamara. Kamara, of course, has an option here, but if we don't decide to go that route and we decide to go contract, do we keep Kamara? Yes or no?
Yeah. For me, yeah. If he wants to stay, I think he can stay. I think he's had a really good effect on the team. We just saw an article that came out in La Presse this past week about how happy he is there and how happy several of the younger players are as well to have him there. And, I think he wants to give a lot to a team that's been dying to have him for a long time. So for me, yeah, give him another year if he wants to be here.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Yves. And, a lot of people are really sometimes look at the age as being a big handicap. It all depends on the player and how he keeps himself fit and how he keeps himself in check and his hygiene and his everything that goes around being a soccer player. And I'm sorry, but Kai Kamara is very, very fit. And I look at very old players. You look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's 40 years old. He plays at AC Milan. Yes, he was injured for a big part of the year, but he's still as fit as ever. I don't think age is a problem as long as you're fit and you're able to keep your stamina. You're able to keep yourself in a good physical condition. And I think Kai Kamara is very good physically. And you know what? You don't need to play him as much as you play him this year, right? So you can keep him and play him about 20 games as a sub. And he's going to be very important, very good leader, very good positive mentality in the locker room, which is something that you really want as a coach.
Yeah, and I think he attracts a lot of fans as well.
Of course.
Not necessarily to the stadium, but I think fans, it's easy to get attached to him.
Of course, and Kamara with the salary makes it's ridiculous how low his salary is. So I'd definitely take another year of him, and he kind of really accepted his role too. So you won't ever have Kamara, I think, knocking on the door asking for more minutes. I think he really accepted what he was here in Montreal to do, and injuries happen. So I'm for sure I take Kamara back. Guys, we need to go back to the game. At halftime, the score was 2-0 Montreal, and no changes were made by the coach. But up to the 56 minutes now, Montreal was beaten by a set piece from DC. It was a good ball in, and it was met by a veteran, Steve Birnbaum, and suddenly the lead was cut in half. Guys, do we still have to talk about set plays, or is this just a bit of a normal occurrence that you will concede on once in a while?
I'm leaning towards normal. I don't live in pure unadulterated fear of corners anymore. So I feel like it's you're gonna concede one every now and then. And Steve Birnbaum is a veteran who definitely has encountered one or two of those situations before.
Hady.
Yeah, I agree with Eve. It's just I didn't like the fact that Koenig completely left him.
Yeah, me neither.
I really didn't like that. I understand that it's not your play to really defend on headers, but Birnbaum is maybe the best header, has the best heading ability in all of DC squad, right? And you're leaving him alone, in a perfect position. That's something that I don't like, but I don't think that it's a trend, right?
Okay. The thing is, Hady, is that you have the Donovan Pines effect, who's 6'5", so obviously Victor Wanyama had to take him, so the next tallest player was Ismail Kone, but not the best in the air at all.
Exactly.
And
you have Rudy.
You could
have Rudy, you have Joel
too,
Waterman, you have Corbo, you have so many options. Why Ismail Kone?
And honestly, there is the factor of the height, but there's a factor of just wanting to get the ball. And Kone, it was a half effort.
Exactly.
Really.
And there's you were a central defender, Sam. There's also the timing. It's important to be big, but also it's important to have the right timing, right? And this is something that you get with experience and by playing a lot of games as central defender, right? So
but the thing is, and if you think that you're outmatched physically by the player, or if you're smaller. I was always a small center back. You just have to use your body in a different way. And what Kone could have done is just maybe bumped Birnbaum when he was running. There's so many contacts in these set plays situation when every player is running all over the place. There will be contact, and like half legal contacts, half illegal. You need to get a bit dirty in these situations, and Kone completely refused to do it. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but it happens. He's young. Guys, Wilfred Nassi, he gave it some time, but as DC was starting to grow into the game, right after another superb save from Pantemis, the coach proceeded to a triple substitution in the 63rd minute. Off went Mason Toy, Georgi Mihailovic, and Lassi Lapalainen. In came Kai Kamara, Matko Miljevic, and Mathieu Chouanière. Yves, I want to hear you on, because we didn't talk about him today yet. What did you think of Mason Toy's performance? When he was walking off, he looked really disappointed in himself.
Yeah, and I think Mason Toy is a player who, you know, as much as I'll ever empathize with a professional soccer player, he's somebody I empathize with a lot because I'm also somebody who can get in my own head a lot. And no, it definitely was not a match to remember for him. He did have a really good chance early in the match that Lakely should have scored, and after that, he kind of faded out of the match more and more as it went on. And even in some of his plays, even towards the end of the first half, you could kind of feel some frustration coming off of him. I think, you know, certainly the two goals that were scored were a lot of individual brilliance from Ramel Kyoto and a lot of effort in that regard. And, you know, overall, I think maybe he didn't get himself into the positions he maybe could have gotten himself into. Like we saw Lassi Lapalainen catching onto a ball from Georgi Mihailovic instead of him. We saw, you know, Ramel Kyoto putting in a cross that found no target and so on and so forth. So it was a little bit of an anonymous performance for me, but hopefully he's able to shake it off.
Yeah, and Hady, did you like the triple change decision by Wilfried Nancy at that moment in the game?
Yeah, I did. I think it was important to really shake the team a bit, and bring in fresh players because there was a lot of humidity in the game, and some players were really tired. So I think that new blood was important and significant changes. So maybe 3 changes is important just to get that extra bit of freshness within the team, and I think that was good. Of course, you always have to be careful because when you put 3 players in, of course,
it's like a little bit of adjustment.
Yeah, exactly. There are a bit of adjustments in order for the team to really find their collective stance again, and they did. It took a few minutes, but they did, and I think it was the right decision for Okinasi. And we saw that we took the game back. I think we had a couple of chances afterwards, so that was pretty good.
Yeah, so and the end of the game saw Torres replace Kyoto in the 74th minute and Torkelson replaced Kone in the 90th. DC put in a solid effort to get the equalizer, but Montreal survived the late scare and bagged 3 crucial points to consolidate our place as a legit playoffs contender. Hady, you were at the virtual post-game presser. What did the coach have to say after the game?
Oh, he was very happy and proud of the team because, the conditions weren't really the best, of course. He thought that the team was supposed to score a lot more in the first half, like everybody saw. But he was happy because they were able to grind it out. They were able to, finish the game and still get the 3 points. And he's like, you know what? I like these kinds of games where we have to work very hard to get the 3 points. I like that because it shows that with efforts, with union between the players, you're going to be able to really get the result that you wanted. And that's exactly what happened. It's a tough game, but they were able to still get the 3 points, and he liked the efforts that were put by the players. The last thing that he said was he was happy with James Pantemis' performance, and he's like, you know what, I like competition between the sticks, so I like the fact that Pantemis is now a good a starter, and he's doing well in goal. So that's what he said.
Cool. Yves, what did you think of the overall aesthetics of the stadium and crowd in DC? Watching this game, where would you rank Audi Field in your stadiums to visit standings?
So it's a brand new stadium. Well, pretty brand new anyway. So obviously, one always wants to see kind of a shiny stadium. Overall, obviously performances I think have probably had some impact on attendance this season, and DC has also had some difficulties navigating their relationship with some of their supporter groups as well. So, I'm sure some of that did impact it, kind of how the match went. But certainly we did hear lots of cheering and chanting and so on. So power to those who are sticking with them through the difficult times as they wait for Wayne Rooney to come in with his red cape. Overall, honestly, I know some really good people in DC. So for me, it is a place I definitely want to go. And enjoy a match with some of my football friends, soccer friends from DC, 100%. As far as the stadium goes, overall, I think it does look really good. I can see why it would have been in contention for World Cup hosting, even if it didn't get picked.
Yeah, true.
And, I will say one thing is that the grass didn't look fantastic last night. That is the caveat that I will give
disgusting.
it. Yeah, okay, there we go.
Really disgusting.
Horrible.
You're politically correct, Eve. Since when?
What's happening?
What's up, man?
I don't know. Okay, I'll keep drinking, guys. Yeah, no, it didn't look great. Like the field itself didn't look great, but then I've watched other matches that DC United have played, and so I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I know they played some friendlies recently against Bayern, for example. So maybe I don't know if it's a question of overuse or what. That's not my job. I'm not a groundskeeper.
Cool. So pending New York City victory, that would put us fourth. We're third right now. New York City plays at 8 p.m. to New York Red Bull. My bad. Thank you. New York Red Bull. My bad. We would be third and fourth if they win. Sorry, got that mixed up because I was thinking about a preview of the New York City game that's in Montreal next week. So we'll do the usual, guys. Montreal will win if, and Montreal will lose if, against NYCFC at Stade Saputo Saturday. Who wants to go first? You want to go start, Eddie? Go first, Eddie? Go ahead.
Montreal will win if they're lucky. Montreal will lose if New York City FC is as good as they've been this year. It's as simple as that. There's such a strong team. It's going to be very hard. And Montreal will need a lot of luck.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll go.
Eve.
Montreal will win if New York City are reeling from the loss of Tati Castellanos because, of course, this weekend was his farewell match with the club before moving over to Europe. Rightly deserved, I do believe. Montreal will lose if... Oh my gosh, there's so many young players like... Magno, Andrade. Oh my gosh, there's so many young players. If any of them feel prepared to give the show that they gave at the start of the season, Montreal's going to lose.
Well, that's my point. If we're able to stop, because now someone is going to step up for New York City. I think it's going to be Thales Magno who's going to take a bit more of a center role. So if we can stop him, I think we're going to win. And I think the thing is that if Montreal start looking a bit too much ahead, we're consolidating a good spot in the standings. But I have the feeling that every single time that we started to feel good about ourselves, we started to look in the mirror and say, you know what, we might be a very good team. We messed up no long after. So we have to be very careful with this. So Montreal will win if they stop Thales Magno. They have a good game plan to stop him. Montreal will lose if they start looking at themselves like a very good team and leave a bit of the grind of the team bond important effect that they have, and they just go out there and try to overdo it, I think. That's my point. Guys, we have some time before Anthony Tatera comes in, so we'll go into Georgi Mihailovic's thing, because there was a worrying sight for Georgia fans and Montreal fans this week, as he was very evasive and awkward when answering a question from Gavino De Falco of EMFC Radio concerning his future in Montreal. If you didn't see the clip, just go on Gavino or EMFC Radio's Twitter page. It was all over Twitter for a while, so you can't miss it. Guys, I want to hear on how did you guys react when seeing that snippet of Georgie after training?
Okay, For me, like it felt like he was, trying to say a whole lot of nothing with many words. So honestly, I didn't panic. Also, I don't think it's any secret that Georgi Mihailovic wants to play in Europe. I don't think it's any secret that part of the club's hope is to sell him to a team in Europe for many dollars. So for me, like, it wasn't super groundbreaking.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I kind of understand him, right? He's waiting for the right offer. If he's getting the right offer, I don't see why he wouldn't go to Europe. And right now, it's now where it's the best time for a player to join a European team because it's preseason, and that's when you're going to be able to, prove yourself to your coach and get a role within that squad. Now, of course, it will be a big piece that goes away in case the transfer is complete. But we already have Matko, we do have other players, and we'll have money. So yeah, a very big loss, of course. But at the end of the day, we invested on Georgi Mihailovic because we thought that we were able to make him a better player and then sell him for a lot more money. So I wouldn't be shocked if he goes away, and if he stays, better for us.
Honestly, I was a bit surprised that it was like that early because I always had the feeling that Georgia would probably leave after the World Cup. Given if he goes or not, it wouldn't change anything for me. I was really thinking, he'll finish this season for sure, and after the World Cup, he's gonna leave. But now seeing that awkwardness and that he wasn't feeling well when he was answering that question, and I was just like, man, it might be very very imminent. So that was a bit of a surprise for me, maybe just because I had imagined it in a way. But it's a lot of things come as surprises when you're following Montreal and as a fan in the day to day. So that was a bit it was a bit disappointing for that. But yeah, I know that Georgie will leave at some point, but I just didn't have the feeling it would be like in an imminent future. But that
Well,
comes
it's
to
dead silence. No rumors from any team who would theoretically be receiving him. No rumors from Montreal's side of him departing. So also, even though, like, I will say Montreal has done a lot to quash rumors in recent years from their
yeah,
side.
exactly.
But nonetheless, rumors always escape.
So
Guys, don't forget. Sorry, I just want to add one last thing. Don't forget the transfer market is very weird
yeah,
since the Premier League has decided to stop the transfer window, to close the transfer window just before the beginning of the season. Since then, everybody's waiting for the Premier League clubs to make their moves. And then after the transfer window is closed in England, that's when the other clubs make their moves.
Good
So
point.
the transfer market in England is the first part of the big international window, and then you have the second part. And I'm pretty sure that Georgie will go, if he'll go, in the second part of the transfer window. So there's still a bit of time before we reach that second window. So let's wait and see.
you kind of answered my next question, so I'll send it to you, Eve. Do you have the feeling that Georgie will be here at the end of the present international transfer window?
Honestly, yes.
Okay.
Don't judge my feelings, though, for anything. They're not worth a cent.
I agree with you.
But yes.
I think he will still be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, to be honest. It's his body language didn't suggest that at all. I had the feelings he was already on the plane or not far. So I don't know, man. It just felt a bit weird. But I hope he's still here. But I'm not too optimistic, given also how well, in my opinion, Matko played during his absence. I think that kind of securized the front office and say, you know what, for the end of the season, we might be able to make a push with Matko in Georgie's position if the good offer comes in. So it's a bit of all of that. Guys, just quickly to close this out, I wanted to ask you, what return could we realistically get from Georgie at this point of his career?
I'm so sorry. I'm rolling my eyes aggressively like at that question because like I don't enjoy, you know, throwing numbers around aimlessly. I really don't. It's not something I enjoy at all.
Sorry, Chan has an answer for you guys.
Ah,
He's
there we
gonna ask
go.
Fabrizio.
There we go. No, I think Fabrizio only follows one MLS club, if I'm not mistaken. No
Guess
comment.
it's not us, eh?
No. So anyway, like 4 to 5 million would be solid for me. But again, I'm terrible with money, and also I said I don't enjoy this question, so I'm just picking a number to like end my suffering a little bit.
Hady.
I think more than 5 million will be a good offer. Anything over 5 million, I hope. If I want to be happy myself, I would say over 7 million, but over 5 will be very good, I think, for the club.
Yeah, I have the feeling it's gonna be between 5 and 7 for me. So
Okay,
pretty
I'm
good.
a low baller.
Yeah, a low baller, but well, really close. So that's not bad. Guys, Georgie missed the cut for some reason. We talked about it a bit. Was it his injury? Was it just, you know, I don't know. Why wasn't he chosen for the All Star game? We don't know. But G Sharp hit us with a comment on the All Star game, and he says, "I make a point never to waste time on the All Star games, any sport. I see that Insigne, who hasn't played a minute in MLS, is taking part in the skills contest. Definitely kills any credibility this game might have had.
Alright.
Definitely will not watch. Just venting." Guys, do you agree with G Sharp on that one?
Okay, so I actually make a point to never like let that team live in my head rent free, for one. Number two, I mean, it's kind of thirsty from the part of MLS.
Yeah.
It's kind of thirsty.
You know what? I'm the same like G Sharp. To be honest, I think the last All-Star game, all sports together that I watched like closely was in the 90s, and it was the NBA All-Star game.
I went to the one in
never
2018.
Yeah, I don't at all enjoy All-Star games at all. I don't even watch them. I'm not interested in watching them. I do when I don't have time, when I don't have a choice. Like, this year I'm gonna have to watch it because because there are CF Montreal players that are playing. So come on.
Well, 8 singular.
Yeah. So come on, you never know. Maybe there's gonna be a trade and we're gonna get one of the Old Stars. You never know.
That's optimistic.
Hady,
No,
I want what
but,
you're
like-
smoking.
No, all I'm saying is, maybe I will have to watch the game, but I have no interest whatsoever in All-Star games because it's all about showtime. It's not about the game anymore. It's all about how many people I can dribble, what kind of goal can I score, and it's just showing off. It's really showing off, and you know what? I'm not interested. I'm the kind of guy.
What?
Even when I used to play any kind of sports, I'm the kind of guy that's Mr. Fundamentals, right? That like to make the simple basic plays the best way possible.
Okay.
That's the way I am.
I have a dream of getting a word in edgewise at some point.
Go ahead.
The one thing I will say is I enjoyed the era, when they would do like homegrowns versus homegrowns. I thought that was an interesting exhibition match because it gave a chance for those young up and coming players who are maybe just getting fringe minutes with the first team to kind of show their worth. So I liked when they included that as part of the All-Star game. Unfortunately, I think it's now just been entirely replaced by the skills competition, which is not something that interests me one iota. And I will say that Chan does have a really good point in that Chan mentions still enjoyed watching Drogba score a goal versus Arsenal again, even if in an All-Star game. Well, that's classic.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah,
that is classic, to be fair. But of course, now as well, it's Liga MX versus MLS. But even then when it was against European clubs, it wasn't serious by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, I think we're pretty of similar mind. We don't have any interest whatsoever.
No, not really, and even the other sports, contacts has
No late
been
editions have motivated me to watch
no,
it either.
no,
How's
and
that?
people are much more conscious of the dangers of contact. And if you look in American football and hockey, the All-Star games, I don't even understand why they still do it. And it's cool that in MLS you'll do it because it gives you that North American flavor. But man, I mean, these players have grueling seasons. It's a long season. There's a lot of traveling all over the place. I think they would take that week off instead of going there and all the media circus and stuff. So I'll watch it because of Kamal Miller for sure, but not with a lot of interest. If we lose, if we win against Liga MX All Stars, I don't really care, to be perfectly honest.
I just want everybody from Montreal to leave in one piece. Imagine picking up a season-ending injury at like an all-star match. Oh my gosh! Just imagine.
Yeah,
that would just be the I think that would be almost as bad as picking it up in preseason because it's just so meaningless.
Definitely. Guys, last question we got for this show is Justin Furtado, and he hit us up with that was a cool question. It's a bit left field, but I love it. He asks us, TBRR Montreal, after Mauro Biello's induction last game, which former player would you guys induct next in the CF Montreal Wall of Fame? Guys.
So it has to be like at least 5 years since they last played for the team, in order to be considered. If I'm not mistaken.
Gabriel Gervais said it was very gray zone, so I don't think they even understand their own rules.
I could see like Eduardo Sabrango making it. He'd be a good choice, I think.
Hady.
Yeah, Sabrango will be a good choice. There's so many players that we can name.
He's just the first one that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Patrice Bernier comes to my mind like right away, right? So
but no, I was thinking if they want to leave a little more time.
Yeah. But Patrice Bernier, Nacho Piatti, all those players should have.
Yeah, they'll be there eventually, but I think
they'll be there eventually. But the next one, I agree with Sabrango. I think Sabrango is a very, very good choice, 100%.
Yeah, same thing for me. And he followed in MLS. That was interesting too, because I think he was the only one, or one of the, well, there was some players that followed, but one who had so much of that presence in USL that followed in MLS, and he that legendary goal in the 2009 Champions League. If I'm not mistaken, it was against Santos Laguna. It was him. It was awesome. So that answers your question, Justin. Thanks for hitting us up. We're ready to welcome Anthony Tetera on the show, guys.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi.
How are you, Anthony? Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine to join you.
Welcome.
Anthony, listen, Anthony, you have so many accolades and credentials. I don't really know how to present you. So can you present yourself to us? I think it's going to be easier.
Very, very simple. Anthony Tetera. That's good enough.
That's it. He doesn't even need a title. He just needs a name.
No, that's it. Because in my house, I take the fourth seat at the dinner table whenever that's possible.
Excellent.
Nice.
So,
excellent.
Anthony Tetera, for definitely what I know, is a grassroots ambassador and domestic amateur scout in Ligue 1 Canada, which for us Quebecers is the equivalent of the PLSQ. You worked for CPL, York United, before being rehired by the CSB as grassroots ambassador for Ligue 1 Canada. You're responsible for developing a national amateur scouting network and coordinating talent showcase events. I mean, with so many roles, can you describe your day-to-day, Anthony?
It's quite hectic. But before we get into that, Sam, I want to say first thanks to you, Hady, and Eve for doing what you are all doing on a weekly basis and talking about the game we love, football in Canada, in your province, talking about grassroots, talking about MLS, talking about CPL. Because without people like you talking about the great game, we wouldn't have that spotlight in different parts of the country, whether it's grassroots or the pro, we're talking about pathways. So thank you for doing what you're doing, because we need more people like you talking about the game that we love so much. So thank you.
Wow.
In
Thank
regards
you. My heart is so warm.
In regards to what I do, Sam, look, I'm very privileged and honored to work at CSB and back at CPL and now League One Canada under Commissioner Dino Rossi, who I've known for, about 15 years. And I really enjoy the dual role that I have. It's practically the same role I had my first time around when I was a day one employee at CPL in the football operations department, where I did a lot of grassroots outreach, which I still do a number of them now, but I also concentrate on scouting domestic players. And I really enjoy it. I love it. And it's really rewarding to me. You know, yesterday I was out and it had to be 35 degrees here yesterday with the humidity and heat. And I was out watching a couple games and a couple levels below where people think that there's no talent. That's why I love to go. When people say you're wasting your time going to this part of the city, this part of the province, you're wasting your time because there's nothing there. They're at the third tier. That's where I get the most joy, to try to find some of the things like I did yesterday.
Ooh.
And Anthony, how does one even get into scouting? I mean, what is the thought process, and practically how do you get going as a scout?
So I was lucky enough, Sam, thanks for asking that question, that years and years ago, you can tell from my white hair, I'm old, and you could practically, all three would be my...
At least you have hair.
Yeah,
At least you have hair.
But I was lucky enough, Sam, to work back in the old Canadian soccer, where it had the Intrepid, it had Northrop Rockets, which I worked with. You can see the picture behind me there. And the Toronto Blizzard, and on and on. And so I worked for 3 years, and I worked under a wonderful man who was the GM, Fausto Di Bardino. And back then, even still today, in the game of football, as I call it, not soccer, football in Canada, you had to wear many hats. Back then when I was with Northrop Rockets, I did a bit of marketing, a bit of PR, and I did a bit of scouting some local players, where I just got my thirst. I quenched my thirst like an appetizer to see if I liked it or not. And I liked it. So lo and behold, when I started at CPL 5.5 years ago, I started specifically in a grassroots ambassador role, outreach and all this. But then I was asked to go into the scouting domestic part of it. And right away, I started to do some homework. I reached out to a couple former coaches, one actually from your area, and I don't mind telling you who he is. And he's a brilliant mind, a former coach in Montreal with the Impact, and a proud Canadian, a Hall of Famer, I consider him. And I called him up. I said, Enzo Concino, former Montreal coach. I said, Enzo, you to me is the guy that I need to pick your brain. I value your expertise. I value your advice. I value what you are going to tell me. So I asked him, like I did with another coach in Italy, who was part of the Napoli system. Then I went to a couple guys who I knew in MLS locally. I asked them. And so I spoke to about 6 or 7 people, North America, Europe, and so forth. And I wanted to get to understand how they look at the game, how they look at players, what ingredients are they looking at to bake that cake. And so little by little, I started to learn more and more, and I'm still learning today. By no means can I ever put myself at a level of some of the elite scouts. Not a chance. But what I think I bring to the table and what I think I'm good at is I have an eye, and I have an ear, and I have a brain, hopefully still, to understand what I'm looking for.
But that kind of brings me to my next question, Anthony. What are the principal attributes scouts will be looking for at first glance when watching a player, let's say for the first time?
So I knew you were going to ask that, so I took this out of my briefcase upstairs, and I don't know if you can see it, but that's a scorecard. That's a scorecard that I built with some of the things I'm looking for. So you can't see it, but I'll tell you what's on it. So we look at tactical, physical, and we look at the technical part and the mental part. You know, you're looking at age, you're looking at the position, right foot, left foot, height, all this information. You know, Sam, Hady, Eve, you get a tip, you go watch a player like I did yesterday. Got a tip a couple weeks ago. You go watch if it's local, because again, expenses and things come into play, budgets come into play. So if you can go locally, you go. But before you make that trip across Canada or into Quebec or wherever in these parts of Canada, you got to watch lots and lots of footage of that player. You have to call not only his coach, you got to call maybe a previous coach. You've got to call maybe an opposing coach to talk to them and get the feel of this player. And you got to keep watching and watching enough footage that then you say to yourself, okay, I've watched plenty of it live, maybe on a live stream, and footage that's been sent to me. I've gotten enough of my notes. Now it's time to invest the trip out wherever, out in Quebec, let's say, okay? And then even then, seeing it for the first time is not enough because you might get that player on a bad day, on a bad game. So you need to come maybe again.
Yeah.
And one of the most important parts for me is this, is you got to get sure you get all the information off the field. Yeah. Because again, our CPL owners are owners that are building their brands. And this is what I tell the young players when I go to speak to them coast to coast. I've done about 150 youth club presentations, and I tell them that you are a brand. And so I have to do the checks, and I've got to find the information off the field. Is this young man a good citizen? Is this young man focused not only on football but on education?
Yeah.
Because you're one injury away from that's it being done as a player. So you got to factor all these things in.
It's funny. It feels like, you showed us the card there. It feels like a player profile in Football Manager. It's almost that, right? The game, right? It's almost that.
Hady, it's funny. I came out to the PLSQ and I came out to the Laval, Montreal, Quebec area back in June. I made 2 separate trips, and I got to tell you, your province. Not because I'm speaking to you. You can ask anyone. Your province for me is the goalkeeper factory of Canada. That's that is a fact. I can go to Quebec and find the goalkeepers today from any age of 15 on up. Wow. It's a factory. That's number one. Number 2, the PLSQ is an absolute wonderful league. Okay, it has the most ready pro players right now. Pro ready. Okay, so the hidden gems that are in Quebec, there are so many. People ask me, you're spending too much time in Quebec. Well, why wouldn't I? Let's look at the rosters on CPL. Let's look at the rosters at MLS. We did a showcase back in 2019 in Laval at the Quebec Soccer Center just before the U Sports draft. Yeah. And we put this showcase together, myself and Aaron Nielsen, who works in the football department at CPL. We got the best Ontario players under 19 at that time, and the best Quebec were put together by John Limiatis and his staff of Quebec. And we played there, and all our CPL coaches were there. We put together all the bios ahead of time of all these players. We put together as much information as we could. We made sure that they trained enough together as 2 units. They did. And what stood out to me and what puts a smile on my face today is we have, from back then, those 2 teams, Quebec and Ontario, 5 players that have come through that showcase that are now playing in the CPL. And it's unbelievable how much talent they do.
That's amazing.
Interesting.
And there's something new that's trending more and more, Anthony. It's that it seems that teams are investing more and more in business-like interviews while evaluating players. So how much does personality come into play when you're deciding if a player is pro-ready or not?
You want a player to have some personality, not completely bland. You got to have some personality. I'm the worst guy to ask that because you can already tell. But in all seriousness, you need a player to have some personality to represent your city, to represent your area. You've got to have a little bit of fun. You've got to smile. It's good for your brand. You've got to have a little swagger, a little ego, all that into one. You need that. And so the clubs are looking for that. Like, I started watching your show at the beginning, and I kept on hearing that beautiful name of Joel Waddle.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
amazing.
Guess where he came from, folks?
U Sports first.
and Joel Waterman, not because he came from CPL, but the family that he has and the type of human being he is. I don't need to tell you, you're there. Is beyond words. Beautiful human being, wonderful player, wonderful family. Every time I've seen him do an interview, all class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, and he's really involved in the community as well in his off time.
Well, let me ask you,
back home.
Yeah. Let me ask you, shouldn't the players today be engaged in the community? I mean, no disrespect to some of the other sports, okay, where they get millions upon millions, but especially with CPL and MLS, take the time to sign that out. Take the time to put that smile on that little girl, little boy's face, because you know what? Years from now, they'll look back and they'll say, "Wow, Joe Waterman signed my jersey," or "Wow, Kamal Miller signed my jersey." like.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. There is not enough good that can be done from that.
Yeah, so Anthony, we see, of course, we have a few players from CF Montreal that are loaned to the CanPL, Jonathan Sirois, Carrie Fayao, Jean Lassie, and Sean Rea. What can you tell us about their current performances, and what is the ceiling for each of them, in your opinion?
Jonathan Sirois is outstanding. He right now for me is a guy that look. He's the number one shot stopper in PKs. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but he is the number one guy that stops PKs. He's got great command, wonderful communication. He is a leader. He is a guy that I believe the ceiling continues to get higher and higher and higher. Yao, wow. I mean, I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't scare people away. I think Canada's national team should be looking closer and closer and closer as he continues to get better and better and better. Yeah. Now, obviously, not this time around because the World Cup is only 4 months away. No. But after this World Cup, I think maybe you should open the door and say hello to Mr. Yao there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And the other two, Asi and Rhea?
Yeah, I think Asi needs a little bit more.
Well, he's very young.
Yeah, very young. And I'm sorry, the last one, Hady?
Sean Rea.
Oh, well, talk about the goals that he scored. Come on. Those are highlighted goals.
Amazing.
He's got feet like a junior pyramid. Sweet, soft. I wish I had his body, too. That's another thing. But he's got an unbelievable mind for the game. And he plays with effort. Like, you can see him out there as if he doesn't have a sweat. He can go for miles and miles. He's got a wonderful first touch, wonderful knowledge of the game. And I think, again, the ceiling is high for this young man. Again, see his 2 goals that he scored this year. And I think last year he scored also a highlight goal reel.
Yeah.
But the guy, all he does is score. And again, where are they coming from? La Belle Provence. I've said this again and again. And again, not just in Laval or the Montreal area. Go up to Quebec City where I was.
Oh, yeah.
Go on to Trois-Rivières. I could go on and on. Don't just stick to the big cities.
Yeah. It's funny, you've been talking about, La Belle Provence and about Quebec having so much talent and everything. And of course, the PLSQ provided quite a few players to the CPL, as you said a bit earlier. But it still seems that this province is still unexploited by CPL teams and others. Do you think that league has a lot more potential than what it's showing right now?
I think it does, but I gotta challenge you on Hady. When you came to say about CPL coaches not exploiting anymore. No. Every time I go to Quebec, who did you see? Who did you like? Give us some feedback. Tell us example. No. It's no more secret, Quebec. The secret's
perfect.
No, I can tell you for not only this year, but even last year. And I'm not going to name coaches or stories, but every time I go to Quebec, I'll get a text message or a WhatsApp. What did you think of this guy? Did you get a chance to see this guy? That. I found the player the last time I was in Quebec in the PLSQ that I made it very clear to people that I would stake my job and reputation on, that I believe that this kid is a home run. Wow. And I believe it with my heart. I'll never give you his name, obviously, but unbelievable. And again, the league, the PLSQ, is not only stacked with veteran players, but young and up-and-coming players. And again, one of the games I was at 4 games, okay, but let's just use the game that really stuck out to me with the fans, the atmosphere, or the back and forth, St. Laurent.
Oh, yeah.
Lights out, fantastic atmosphere, packed, jammed, wonderful team. Yeah. I went last year to Beauport. Yeah, it's outstanding. I don't have to tell you how it is at Blainville. I mean, it's there. I think, sometimes I think it's like Ontario, this inferiority complex that you feel that people aren't watching you, people aren't giving you a hug, or people aren't loving you. No, stop. Because
we need more love, man. We need more love.
You got the love. Listen, you got the love for me and many people all over Canada, especially when it comes to Quebec and Ontario. I just came back from BC. They want the same love, and I keep telling them, we'll give you love too. Everyone has to get on the same page. Yeah. Everyone has to be united. Everyone has to understand that we're one Canada and not one province, right? And when I'm telling you that there's a ton of prospects in Quebec, believe me. Now, BC just started out with BC League One, where PLSQ and League One Ontario are years and years ahead of it. So now they're going to need an eye and some support there. PLS2 speaks for itself. Great quality.
Nice, nice. Now, it's funny. We have a question from one of our listeners right now, and he's asking us about women's pastures. Will he draw in Europe interest, in your opinion?
You see the goal yesterday?
Yeah.
Unbelievable talent. 6 feet plus, built like a beast, would go through a brick wall, can score with either foot. Again, a product from your province. And these are guys that now have the opportunity to play in CPL where they've never would have had an opportunity to play before. Listen, God bless Montreal and Joey Saputo, TFC, Vancouver. I've said this for years and years and years. I believe, call me crazy, I still think you have the best owner in all MLS because it's one guy, and one guy that puts his money out, and one guy that cares deeply about the community and his team. I love what Joey Saputo has always stood for himself. But if we're honest in putting the cards on the table, forever and ever, whether it was TFC, Montreal, or Vancouver, there was only a few seats on the subs bench for Canadians. Just to appease the fans to say, well, there's your Canadians. Here you go. We'll make you happy. Now, what's happening?
Oh my gosh. We have so many.
Jonathan Osorio, Alistair Johnson, Kamal Miller, Samuel Pierre. You want me to go? I could go on. Max Paul. Why? Now all of a sudden they're good? No, they were good before. Why? Because we had the stigma of being called Canadians and maybe we didn't make it to the World Cup. Give our Canadians a chance and see what they can do. That's a perfect example, like the viewer said. Europe? Absolutely. I would not for a second, not believe that he can't get to Europe. Maybe not this year, maybe a little bit more seasoning, but hey, I could be wrong. He might be there in 23.
There we go.
What? Play the youth, guys. Play the youth.
There we go. We get another one on that team. But obviously, and speaking of players who have had a really phenomenally interesting career trajectory through CPL, we recently saw Mo Farsi. Obviously, in the offseason, he chose to leave CPL and sign for Columbus Crew 2 in MLS Next Pro, that new league starting up. And just this past week, he signed a first-team contract in MLS for the Columbus Crew. Do you have any concerns with that new league starting MLS Next Pro that other players, identified by yourself or other scouts, may choose to forego CPL or leave early?
So, Eve, look, I want to make sure that the player and player first is happy. Whatever makes the player happy, do whatever the player thinks makes them happy to get to the level they want to get. Okay? Mm-hmm. I've said this to Eve, and I'll say it again for many more years to come. We cannot compete with MLS. We are not MLS. No. We are just a little baby, a little seed that was planted 5 years ago. And by the way, that little seed that was planted 5 years ago, in the first year, Calgary took out the Whitecaps. The following year, Pacific did. And this year, we had a team that pushed them to the semis again. So that little seed is getting a little bit of more growth. But we cannot compete with MLS. Let's be honest, okay? So are we concerned because of MLS Next Pro that we're going to lose players? I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for myself. Okay. And I'll speak about Mo Farsi. Mo Farsi, I watched him in 2019. And I tweeted out a picture yesterday. I'm going to watch Mo Farsi in 2019. I had an old phone and it came a little fuzzy, but you can tell my kids make fun of me, Eve, that I need a new phone. But anyway.
That's okay. No judgment.
You can see Mo Farsi in that picture in 2019 when I first was alerted and identified of him. And right away, as I tweeted out, I knew Eve right away that this young man was destined for great things. And there he is with Columbus Crew. But let's not forget something that's very interesting here. At Columbus Crew, there's a former GM there by Tim Bazbachenko. Tim Bazbachenko was with PFC. Tim Bazbachenko understood the Canadian product, understood the Canadian players, still understands them, and he understands that there is quality. So he's a smart dude, smart man. And if you look at his second team and now going to his first team, he's got Canadian. Why? Because he knows that there's good quality players. As for Farsi, wish him nothing but the best. And I think he's going to do quite well. Are we concerned? No. We got to worry about what we're doing in CPL and let the chips fall where they may. We just have to continue to grow the league, make sure that young men and young women are aware of our league and understand that there is a new pathway, that understand that you no longer have to quit the game after you're done playing competitive as a youngster. There are now opportunities. PLS2, League One Ontario, BC League One, CPL. And then look, if you're good enough after CPL, MLS, I will applaud them. We're not the enemy. We don't want to be the enemy of MLS. It'd be stupid.
No, excellent. No, and thank you. I think that was really clear-headed. Thank you so much for that. And obviously, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Obviously, CPL uses the U Sports Draft, and as well MLS uses the Super Draft. So drafting has grown exponentially during the past few years, and teams seem to really trust the drafting process for new players more than ever now. How much do you think this has to do with teams dedicating more thought and more trust to those in the scouting process like yourself?
Great question, Evan. I really appreciate you asking that, because there's a gentleman that needs to be acknowledged here that was basically the brainchild of this U Sports Draft. I call him the Elon Musk of Canadian football. His name is James Easton. He's a former Vancouver player for many, many years, the Vancouver 86ers, played with the men's national team of Canada, and a guy that is still doing a lot of great things at CPL head offices, and a guy that was adamant about the U Sports Draft. It's your cake, and you can have your cake and eat it too. What does that mean? It means that you can get an education, get paid, and play pro football. That is amazing. And look, I got to be honest, at the beginning, I was a little bit skeptical too. But then as time went on, it has become such a valuable and important tool for our clubs, for us in the football, in CPL, in League One Canada. And again, it's Waterman came and played in U Sports. We can talk about Peter Shala with Halifax. We can talk about Corey Ben. I can go on and on and on. So many that have come through the draft. Look, it's not like the NCAA is where, if we're honest, the NCAA is stacked and it is wonderful quality football. But U Sports and on our U Sports University teams are doing what they can to continuously up the level. Now, I want to talk about something, Eve, and I'm glad you brought up that question. And I'm asked this quite a bit, and it's this. Anthony, what about the college players? What if we don't go to university? Why can't we get drafted? Well, it's simple. And this is what I tell the young men all across Canada when I speak. We don't have a college draft just yet. And we might not, because we just might not. We might just have the U Sports draft. But I myself personally have been to 2 Canadian National College finals. I myself have been to college games just in your province, in Ontario and in Alberta. So we are watching the college system, because I'll use my sons as an example. One went to university, one went to college. One got a trade, one went into something else in university. So there are good players in college as there is in university. So we cannot neglect the college guys at all. And we are watching them. But right now, U Sports Draft has been fantastic for us.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. And really interesting. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes of the college players. So thanks for alerting us to that one. You are obviously a grassroots ambassador for CPL. As a grassroots ambassador, what support would you like to see from Canada Soccer to get the most engagement and development out of players at that level?
I don't want to speak for Canada Soccer. I'd rather be concentrated and just speak about CPL and League One Canada grassroots. I'll tell you what we do. We've gotten a lot of great support. I'll talk about the visit I made to your province a few weeks back, and a little bit about BC and what I do on these visits, because we are getting a ton of support. Let's go to your province. I made visits to Saint Hubert, Saint Laurent, Sportitude. Am I saying that right? Yves, Sam, and Hady, Sportitude schools. Many visits to them. And on these grassroots visits, we talk to them about the pathway of CPL. We talk to them about the U Sports Draft. We talk to them how to build a buy. I talk to them about something interesting, even. I think you'll like this in Hady too. I talk to them about, again, building their brand, and be careful going on social media and Facebook. And you're wondering, Anthony, what are you talking about?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So I'll tell you why I talk to them about that for, and I'll explain it. Because look, sure, I'm scouting, and sure, I'm grassroots outreach. But again, this is what I tell the players. When you're 15, 16, 17, let's say you're good enough. Let's say you're fortunate enough that a CPL club or MLS club wants to sign you, and they sign that contract, and you've signed it, okay?
Yep.
What happens if the GM or some players or some people start digging back 2-3 years ago on your Twitter and Facebook,
they'll
And
find
you
something.
posted
And
a
they-
real hot take on something.
and they saw a disgusting picture, a bad tweet, something that they shouldn't have said that they regret. So this is what I tell the young men and young women.
Yeah.
Before you push send, be careful. I like using Twitter, but I use it to my advantage. So what do I tell the young men and young women? Post up a great goal you scored. Post up a wonderful tournament that you went to.
Yeah.
Post up a thank you to your coaches. How
Yeah.
about posting up a thank you to your parents that get up early in the morning to bring you to training, take that money out of their bank account to pay for your boots and pay for your registration? How about being positive? Because again, Eve, you are your own brand, and if you're gonna burn your bridge now on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, it could come back to bite you. A quick story, 30 seconds less. When I was working in League One Ontario many years back, we had a goalkeeper with a team. They lost the game. Maybe a bad call by the ref. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Regardless, he goes on Twitter, cusses out the ref, cusses out the opposing team, cusses out the whatever. He just went ballistic. Well, we as a league, I remember back then, the commission suspending this player. It's worse. He had a free ride down south at an NCAA school.
Oh no.
And they said to him, "Goodbye, you're done.
Oh
You're
my
finished."
god.
And so my point is to the young boys and young girls, young men, young women, use social media to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
Oof.
gosh. No,
Okay.
that's a very excellent cautionary tale, and it's probably also good for any of us
Yeah.
living any kind of life, and not just those of us looking
Yeah.
to get into pro sports or semi-pro even. I guess a final question for you, Anthony, and this not necessarily as a scout, as a representative of CPL, but just as a fan of Canadian soccer. What would be your dream for Canadian soccer in Canada 20 years from now?
Honestly, I realize the dream and I get emotional talking about it. You see over my shoulder, there's my two sons right here, and we were thinking back against the game against Jamaica clean sheet. That was a dream come true for me.
I was at that game with my mom. Yeah.
That's
We're all
all.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, we were all there. Yeah.
And I get emotional just seeing that picture still, and I love it. But what I want for 20 years from now, Eve and Hady and Sam, honestly, is we all unite. We all stop the garbage and the BS, and we all check our egos at the door, from the West Coast to the East Coast to everywhere in between. I've traveled this country from one end to the other end. I've heard it all. I've experienced it all with two sons now in their late 20s. I've talked to hundreds and thousands of coaches, technical directors, youth clubs, and there's still complaints and complaints and problems and issues. And I can do it better than you, and I came from this area, and you don't know what you're talking about. I got better training sessions, and why do you stop? In 20 years from now, when I'm hopefully in my walker and I've got no teeth left, you know what I want? Is we are all united in Canada. We are Canadian, and we are all united for the young man, the young girl, to continuously get to World Cups, for the women and men, to win possibly a round or two in World Cups, to maybe win another World Cup, and to show the world that we have finally grown up. That's what we want. We need to check our egos at the door.
Excellent.
This is so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony Totera, it was super interesting, and we're really blessed to have you. And Hady,
Hady, you ready?
throws out the Canada
I have
soccer
like
team.
15 of those.
Yeah. So just before we let you leave, Anthony, if people want to follow you on Twitter, where can they find you, or or Facebook, or whatever? Where?
It could be dangerous if they follow me on Twitter. You know.
No, I do you not lead by example? Are you not just a fountain of positivity?
Smart young lady. I try. I really do. They can follow me at number 4. And the reason why I said 4 is because my wife and I and our two sons, 4, and my last name Totera. Number 4 Totera. But again, as I let you go again, I want to thank you for you. And I mean, it's not because I'm on your show, but we need more people like you. You 3 have taken the step to talk about football, you know, specifically in your province, but even across this country. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for giving the time, the effort, the energy into this, because we need to grow up and we need people like you talking about the game. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anthony.
Thank you,
That's,
Anthony
very
Totera.
appreciated.
It was a pleasure. It was an honor to having you. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Take care.
Thank
care,
you very
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thanks a lot.
You know, I gotta say it again. Just let me get it out of my system
we'll
before
have
we
to.
move on.
Goosebumps.
We're so spoiled. Oh my gosh.
Every
I
time.
can't I cannot get over the quality of guests that we've gotten. And like full credit to you guys, obviously, because I know you have fantastic networks of soccer contacts yourselves. But honestly, all of the guests who we have are just fountains of wisdom, and they have so much interesting backstory, and I'm just blown away every time.
Wow, that was
really
great.
blessed. We're blessed.
Yeah. So, guys, we still have a lot to talk about. Let's jump into the Canadian women national team because they were defeated. Yeah, they were defeated by the United States in the CONCACAF Championship final.
And the saddest penalty in the history of penalties.
Yeah, so I just want to, no real direction to the discussion. Just hit us, guys. What happened on that particular day?
Nobody's going to look at the two squads and say, oh, Canada can walk in the park playing with the U.S. women's national team. Top to bottom on the roster, they're a phenomenal team, right? But it was nonetheless a competitive match. I thought Canada had some interesting chances early in the half. I thought Nichelle Prince was having a field day with the right back of the U.S., whose name just escapes me because actually she's not the person I'm usually used to seeing there. Because of course this is kind of a squad in transition that showed up, a mix of veterans and youth, but like a lot more youth than veterans. But I mean, at the end of the day, the quality of the U.S. I mean, Kaylin Sheridan made some world-class saves to keep Canada in it as long as they were in it. But at the end of the day, I think the scoreline was fair.
Hady.
Man, I don't want to lose to the U.S. again.
I hate it every time.
I just can't, man.
Like, I know, like,
can't.
and what's the worst thing is I was like, I don't let people over my head run free like 5 minutes ago. I was like, oh my God, they moved right in, didn't they?
Oh, man, seriously. Like, I just can't. Every time, like, any sport or anything, I'm like, man, please, not the U.S. again,
Yeah.
It's just, you know what, just top, But, yeah, but, at least I think I like the way Canada is playing now under Beth Priestland. Yes, I know we have some problems in front of the net and everything, but looking at the way the team is set up, the chances that are created and everything,
Yeah.
for me, it's so much better than what we had under Kenneth Heine-Muller. It's just miles away, and it's so much more positive. And unfortunately, we lack that bit of chance, that bit of quality sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the squad selection is not spot on. I love Beth Priestland, but like anybody, she makes mistakes. But yeah, again, the US it's a powerhouse, right? They're so strong, and it's very hard to win games against them. And again, we played so well during that game, trying to exist with such a powerhouse, right? And unfortunately, it's a penalty that gave it all away. And at one point, you do what you can, right? You do what you can, and I'm pretty sure it worked for us in Tokyo, where we won against the U.S. I'm pretty sure it will happen again. We will win more games against the U.S.
But you know what?
We have a team. We have a team that's good and guided by a person that's intelligent, like Beth Priestland.
And we'll win a lot more when we have a domestic professional league.
Oh, that's for sure. But we're not going to talk about. You know what? It's so funny.
I'm dying on that hill.
It's so funny because whenever we talk about the goalkeeper situation, Eve is like, we're not going to talk about that again. But whenever it's the women's professional league, she can talk about it every second.
Oh my God, I'm
hour.
so freaking ready.
Yeah.
I just don't want anyone to forget because Canada soccer in Canada is in the 18th century.
Yeah.
But yeah, also side note, like Julia Grosso did win the Golden Boot. So did anybody have that on their bingo card for this CONCACAF W Championship?
But I want to comment Chan's comment. He said one word, outclassed. I don't agree with that.
I mean, it wasn't like watching, the U.S. face several of their other opponents in this match for sure. But I think at the end of the day, the difference in quality showed the longer the match went on.
Yeah, for sure, because they are a better team. But were we outclassed? Would you use that
Like I
word?
said, like later in the match, it felt like it, just because I felt like the more the match went on, the more Canada tired because the U.S. had so much possession, which is normal, obviously. But I mean, to start the match, I thought maybe the first 20 minutes were highly competitive, and then the U.S. grew into the match, and I think as well their subs paid off. Outclassed, I think, might be a bit of a stretch, but there was still no, but there was still a
question.
but there was still a marked difference in quality.
But you know what? A good marker of if the opposing team was stronger than you is you see Kadisha Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles, and Kaylin Sheridan had fantastic games. And if you have to lean on so much on your center backs and your goalie, it's a good indicator that the other team was superior.
Is everybody convinced about Kaylin Sheridan being the number one for Canada or not yet?
I am.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure because I've been saying that she's better than Stephanie Labbé.
No, but come on, Stephanie Labbé at that Olympics, you can.
Oh yeah, she was amazing. She was amazing. Yeah. She was really amazing. I'm not taking that away from her, but Kaylin Sheridan has a lot more potential. But we'll see. We'll see about that.
And we'll see because to qualify to the 2024 Olympics, Canada will have to play a playoff game against Jamaica in September 2023. So it's in a long time. We'll get back to it at that moment. But it's not a given yet, even though I think we should be able to go through Jamaica without too much of a stress there. Quick word, guys. The under-20 women national team list was dropped ahead of the 2022 World Cup in Costa Rica. We have the list right here. I'm just going to stress on some players that have interesting links with Quebec. So we have Vivian Bessette, a defender born in Montreal. She plays at University of South Florida.
And she's the one. She's the Quebecer in the university. That's where Evelyne Vian was playing before. Go. So she's the one that's replacing Quebec in that university program.
Awesome. We have Zoe Byrne. Her mother was born in Rouyn-Noranda, Quebec. She's a defender. Plays for the University of South California Trojans. Brooklyn Courtnall, daughter of former Montreal Canadiens player Russ Courtnall, defender. She's born in Los Angeles, plays for the University of South California. We have Floriane Jourde, born in Montreal, 17-year-old. She just finished high school at Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, my high school. This year, she's unattached at the moment. Coralie Lallier, born in Saint-Hubert, a goalkeeper, signed at the University of Alabama. Elizabeth C., born in Quebec City, defender. She plays for the SMU Mustangs in Dallas, Texas. And finally, Holly Ward, forward. Her father is born in Montreal. She was born in Vancouver. Plays for the University of Texas in Austin. So these are the players that have a bit of a connection to Quebec. And for sure, we'll keep an eye on their performances and the team all along their journey at the 2020.
That's where Jade Rhodes is. I've been wondering where she is.
Yes, she's with them.
The last 6 months.
So, guys, anything to add on the women national teams?
One thing I'll say is I was a smidgen surprised that Rosa Malouf didn't get a call with the U20s because I thought she was so explosive with the U17s.
Yeah, but she's so young.
That's the thing. She's so young, I know, but it would have been super cool, I think, for her to... Yeah.
But don't forget that she's still in school, right? She's still in school, so
What school takes place in August?
But it starts in August. Am I wrong?
Yeah. So, August. The school doesn't start till September.
Some schools start in August. No. I don't know, man.
In the U.S.
Might have changed
for a long time, man.
I went to school in the East Coast of Canada in the Maritimes, and we always started the first Monday after Labor Day. That's the best thing. That's my
here in Quebec. I know university in Quebec. We usually started back in my days, like 20 years ago. We used to start around mid-August.
Yeah.
So, okay.
This is bad.
So I don't know. That might be the reason why she's not chosen, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, valid.
But again, again, she's very, very young.
Yeah,
So
there,
I
there
think
will be
all
more
the players,
tournaments.
yeah, exactly. And all the players that were chosen are a bit older.
Yeah.
She would have been the youngest
By
player in
far,
the squad,
yeah.
and by far. So let's just give her a breather.
I'm
But I'm
sorry,
so
I got
happy.
hyped.
No, it's okay. But I'm so happy to see those players, all of them.
Yeah.
It's important to get their names out so that whenever one day they reach the senior national team, we'll know exactly we'll have heard
Yeah.
of them, and we'll know exactly who they are. Hopefully, we're going to be able to watch those games and see if they're good enough and if they're talented enough, and I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm
can't
pretty
wait.
sure
Can't
too.
wait.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see that start. Guys, I think that's it. We're gonna move on to the very last part of our show, social media.
Yeah, let's do social media. So one sec. So we have a few tweets, 5 tweets that I chose today. So the first one is from Sean Richardson.
Oh, Sean.
Just finished watching the replay of the CF Montreal game. Another 3 points on the road. The playoffs are getting closer. Guys, should we get so excited? I'm going to start with Eve, just for fun.
It's not over till the fat lady sings. And I ain't singing.
I'm pretty sure Sean is your friend, huh? So
Yes, he is. No, he is. I regularly beat him at the stadium. In fact, so yes. Sean's been away actually for the last few matches. Like I think he's missed much of the month of July because he was a teacher and he's off and they've been traveling. So unfortunately, he's missed some good and some bad soccer. But I won't get excited about playoffs until Montreal's in. Period.
Yeah,
Sam?
You can't
Yeah.
make me.
We've been hurt before, but
Yep.
I was happy yesterday because I had the feeling that a few years ago this would have been a draw, maybe even a defeat. But I like the fact that last year, I think in these more of what I would call dog days of the season, we try to stick very close to our principles a bit too much, and now we just concentrated on grinding it out, making a bit of a dirty game and just getting the results. So this team looks much more mature and ready for playoffs than they were last year and the year before when the new cycle, if we want, with Thierry Henry started. So I won't say that we have a foot in. I'll never say that because we've been hurt a lot in the past, Montreal fans, but it's looking positive for sure.
Yeah, and let's move on to the other tweet. I think it's another one that should be considered for the Wall of Fame for CF Montreal, and it's Greg Sutton. Never easy to win in MLS, but CF Montreal found a way in that second half to do it. Full team effort and credit to Pantemis showing another strong performance for his team. Hashtag goalkeepers need credit too. And it's funny because our friend Anthony Tatera talked about the talent in La Belle Province for the goalkeepers. And do you feel that sometimes the goalkeepers are a bit left aside in some occasions, Sam?
Yeah, for sure. Because the way that football is nowadays, you kind of have the feeling that the goalies are a bit of an outsiders, and it's always been a bit of the feeling. But more and more football is turning around goalies being involved in build-up play and more than they used to be before. Before, goalie would kick his goal kick as far as he could, and if a back pass came, he just had to shoot it right the other side of the pitch. And it's changed a lot, and it's brought into showing some talent in goalies other than shot stoppers. So yeah, I like the fact that goalies are a bit more involved, and I think a little less forgotten than they were
I
before,
hope.
in a sense.
I think that the goalkeeper role has evolved a lot. Obviously, there are some matches like we saw, when we watched the CONCACAF W Championship, for example, where the goalkeeper could have set up a lawn chair at one end of the stadium and would have had no issue doing so. But in really, really, really competitive matches, like we see these days, especially yesterday's, James Pantemis was absolutely integral to the team's win.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
And by the
funny,
way,
Sam, that you
yeah,
talked
Greg
about the
Sutton
evolution.
is on the Wall of Fame. By
I
the
was
way,
gonna say, I was
yeah,
like, a
you
little
said
Is
confused.
he? It's not.
yeah, he is.
It's Nevio and Gabriel Gervais.
And Greg
And Greg
Sutton.
Sutton.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Robert
okay. I
was the
thought there were
fourth.
only
Yeah,
two.
I was
No,
so
no, no, Greg
confused.
Sutton.
I was like,
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, he's on there.
Sorry,
No, but
sorry. I was
yeah.
pretty sure there was only Nevio and Gabriel
No,
Gervais and
there's-
Mauro
Greg is
Biello.
there
no,
too.
they're all there. I
Okay,
promise.
good. Okay,
Good.
sorry.
Four now,
Mea
right?
culpa.
Four.
Mea culpa. But it's funny, Sam, that you talked about the goalkeeper, the evolution of goalkeepers, because one of the first goalkeepers really use that style of play is a former Manchester United player, and it's Edwin van der Sar.
Yeah.
He's one of the first to really get involved with the game a lot more than the other goalkeepers. So it's very, very interesting. Let's move on with the third tweet, and it's from Monsieur Foot de Foot. He said, "Breza out, Corbo in, choose your poison."
Yeah.
And again, talking about greeting from Bologna, Italy. That was unfair,
That's
in my
harsh,
opinion,
man.
because
That's harsh.
Corbo has been good with us this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
He's not been bad. Obviously, his opportunities have been limited. But that's, full credit to Joel Waterman for really seizing his place, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree for Joe Wallerman, but I think Gabriele Corbo has done very well since he's been
Yeah.
there, and if he refers to Bologna being sending us players,
Yeah.
I mean the last center back they sent us I think was the Romanian guy
Yeah,
Boldor,
Boldor,
Dejan
Boldor.
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 So
Oh
let's
my
not even
God.
go there. Gabriele Corbo has had an impact on this team.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
been a very, very good sub, and you don't go too down in a sense in quality when you rely on Gabriele
Yeah.
Corbo. So
I agree.
I really like
Yeah.
him, man.
No,
We
that
tend to
was
forget.
a bit of a hot take for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we tend to forget, guys, that we've had some bad players coming from Bologna, but we had some pretty good players like Xavier Taider, like of course we're
Darren
talking about
Zemaili.
Corbo, like even Okonkwo, he did a good job for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, he was
Zemaili,
decent.
of course. So not only bad players come from Bologna. Yes,
No.
we've had a few, but not all of them.
Well, it's like signing players from most places.
yeah.
Let's move on to the next tweet. It's from Philippe Rancourt, and he says Joel Waterman is a lot better than Lucas McNaughton.
Of course.
In response to a tweet saying, serious question,
Holy
could
shit.
McNaughton
Oh my
take
God, I'm sorry.
O'Neal Henry's spot in Qatar? Not impossible, in my opinion.
What?
Seriously, guys, if McNaughton is chosen ahead of Joel Waterman, I will kick someone's butt.
Well, you won't have to because it's never gonna happen. Forget
Okay,
it.
I changed my mind, Hady. I don't want what you're smoking. I want what that guy was.
Yeah, no.
I'm willing to bet that was tweeted during the heat of a match, like yesterday, for example. So it may well be that Lucas McNaughton had a really, really good match yesterday. But
Yeah.
for me, I mean, number one, as far as I think Daniil Henry is one of John Herdman's quote unquote guys.
Yeah.
But my most recent experience with Lucas McNaughton was recently last week,
Wasn't
and
good.
it was not one to hang your hat on.
But he's been good. He's been good with
He's
Toronto. Him and Caden Chung, also coming from
Okay.
CPL, has been very good too. So
Yeah, no, but still, it would blow my mind.
yeah,
I
me
think
too.
World Cup is a bit of a step.
That
for
is
McNaughton,
a
Yeah,
weird
I
moment
agree.
to bring in a thoroughly untested in the national squad young
Yeah,
player.
no.
I agree. So we all agree on that.
Of
Let's
course.
move on with the next one. Albert, Sobiro.net. As my fiance just said, Toy is toying with our patience.
Oh Lord.
I love that. Not a good showing for Mason Toy in that game. We talked about it a bit earlier. I just like the words. that
Yeah.
he chose.
Yeah.
No, it's a good tweet. But for Toy, just because I didn't really talk about him when we were on his subject. I just think that the solution for him to get going again is give him minutes. So if Wilfried resorts to sit him on the bench and go with maybe hotter strikers in Kyoto and Kamara, who's not giving a lot much, it's gonna shatter, I think, Mason Toy's morale and confidence. So just keep him out there. It's gonna come.
Yeah, of course. No, he's still gonna, he did a few good things against
Yeah.
Toronto, right? So got a crossbar and everything, so he's been good. So yeah, no, he's gonna have more starts and more.
And it's like Patrick says, if he scored instead of hitting the crossbar, but for a couple of millimeters, right? No one would be saying anything.
Exactly, completely right, Patrick.
Yeah.
Completely right. So that's it for social media.
Right on.
And that's it for our show, guys. First, thank you I want to give is to Anthony Tatera, who jumped on the show. It was a very
amazing interview.
Yes.
Amazing interview. So interesting. So thank you, Anthony, for coming on. I want to thank you, Eve and Hady, as usual, for spending the night with me, talking about CF Montreal, Canada Soccer, all that good stuff. And I want to thank all of our listeners, of course, that are listen live and will listen during the week on any platform. Guys, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TBIR Montreal. And have a great week. We're going to see you next Sunday for another episode of The Ball Is Wrong. Take care.